Hello, everybody. And I want to thank the San Francisco Art Institute and Anna Suek and Chris Paddock for all the support here in making these conversations between professors and current and past students, online. And I'm very happy to be here. I'll introduce myself. My name is Tony Labat, and I'm an artist. I'm a professor. I've been teaching here for since the 80s at the San Francisco Art Institute, and I am also the director of the MFA program. And today with me, I have Sandra Ramos Lorenzo, a current student, her first year in the MFA. But I would like to have Sandra introduce and say a little bit about yourself, Sandra.
Hi, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks to Anna and Chris that made this possible, and thanks to all of you that are watching this series. My name is Sandra Ramos, and I am an artist from Cuba. I moved to America like 7 years ago, and now I am a student at the graduated program at San Francisco Art Institute, MFA. My work is in many different medias and usually relate to society and politics and how that's affect individuals.
Beautiful. 7 years. I thought you were here longer, but wow, only 7 years. Wow.
No, yeah, in 2013.
Oh my God. So listen, your education, with that being said, and growing up in Cuba, being a Cuban artist, your education was all your foundation and all that was in Cuba. I believe you started as a printmaker in a San Alejandro. Maybe I'm wrong. If you could tell us a little bit about your training, your foundation, your art education, please.
Yes, Tony, I think I was lucky that I studied in the best kind of Cuban art education system. I studied at the elementary art school when I was very young. At 12, I started there. Then I go to San Alejandro Academy, where I study printmaking, and then today is a higher institute of art in Havana. At the middle of the 80s, where I was very lucky to have as my teacher all the artists that were part of the very well known after 80s Cuban art generation.
Wow, beautiful. And so, but I think also your work kept evolving and expanding to where today you make videos, you do installation, animation, paintings like the ones behind you, and even photography I've seen you do. So sculpture. So could you tell us a little bit about that evolution and when more or less that started to happen?
Yeah, I think it started since the beginning because even when I was in the printmaking department, I always painting and made drawings. And then in 1993, I did my first installation work for the Havana Biennial, and it was a series of 10 painted suitcases that were shown there and different parts of the world in Germany and in London also. It was like the first time that I have like a broader showing of my work outside Cuba, and then I start to make more installation. And in 1999, I have my first camera, and then I start to make videos. And to now, I work with many different media, and I love printmaking, but I also love to work with other manifestations.
So, Sandra, this is very interesting, and I find that recently it's been happening quite frequently, which is someone like you with established successful career for more than 20 some years. Uh, it's getting a degree, an MFA here in the United States. Could you address that for others that maybe are in the same place as you found yourself?
Yeah, I think since the beginning that I moved here, I was always like thinking in the study, in some way to know more being more deeper relation with the context of American art and the what was happening here and how connect with this world. And I think this opportunity with the San Francisco Art Institute has been amazing. And I thank you so much. And I think in this time of the coronavirus was like the perfect decision for me to do this, because it was a way to have my mind creating and learning in such a difficult moment, no?
Uh,
And
you,
knowing all of you has been like a real treat for me in this context.
you told me recently that you've been loving all the reading that you've been doing.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah.
That's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. So speaking of that, and on that note, uh, besides the situation with uh, this pandemic that we're going through, these extraordinary times, this is now you're about to complete your first year, and it's
Mhm.
been completely online. So how has that been for you?
Well, I think that worked very well for me, and I think it's something that to think in the future to keep this possibility for the school. I think would be very nice, and will give like a global approach to education also, because it's a tool. The internet and all this Zoom thing is a tool that could make the art schools more open to artists that live and have studios in different places of the world. And it really works for me very well, because for the theoretical classes, it's perfect. I for the communication with my classmates also, even when I want to meet them in person someday, I think we connected very well through the virtual, and it's a tool that I think in some way help to concentrate on the information that you want to give, and on the subjects, and the activities that you want to develop in a very effective way. And
You
I really
know,
enjoyed the
oh,
process.
that's also amazing to hear. I'm with you on that, and I think also it maybe not may not work for everything and everybody, but at that graduate level, you know what I mean, and especially
Yeah.
someone like you, I think it's more about having these conversations and with
Cool.
other artists, because as you know, all the with the scholars and artists and like the peers within the room, and just to have these conversations and be having a sense of community, because by now we're all doing work. It's not so much about critiquing, but about sharing and discussing and giving feedback to each other. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And also, I think have been very helpful to bring other artists, like inviting artists to this conversation with the students, and in some way, Zoom made it easier, because an artist could be any place in the world, and you can invite them to your class,
That's right.
and also the readings and all this. It's very. I think for the practical work in the workshop, of course, the presence is very important. And for undergraduates, I agree with you. It's very important, maybe the presence. But for the graduates, if you have your practice established and you have a studio place, you don't need so much to be there. And it's a new possibility that
Exactly.
maybe made the school more attractive for artists in different parts of the world.
I see that, because I've been there. I see that you're in your studio. I see the Trompito series behind you. Uh, could you talk a little bit about your recent work? And after that, I would like to hear you talk a little bit about what you're working on now. What are some future ideas, some future projects that you have in mind? By the way, your
Yeah,
studio
well,
is in
this year,
Miami. Your studio is in
yeah,
Miami. Tell us about that.
My studios in Miami in the Bay House Art Complex. This was the first studio for artists in Miami. It was established in the 80s by three artists that bought the place. At the time, this was very bad neighborhood, and then they made this kind of foundation to keep this open as artist studio. And I feel lucky that I have my studio here in the backyard, so very lightly, and I love it. And this series that you refer, I started at the end of the summer of 2020, and then I started at the same time the first semester with you and, as my graduate critics seminars professor. And it's a series that it is based on a re-elaboration of the character of Boss Tweed, a character created by Thomas Nast at the end of the 18th century, the 19th century, that I took this caricature and worked with the reference as regard Donald Trump behavior in the last months of his re-election campaign. So it's a kind of timeline that in which I made like 70 small paintings that show what was happening every day, how all this craziness in the succession of issues and political stratagems that he established in some way affected so much population in this country. No, it was a very critical moment for the history of America, and in some way I made like this journal of what was happening.
What I found very interesting about them, and a few animations that you did as part of the series, is that there's an incredible amount of humor, or maybe there's sarcasm, maybe there's irony. I don't know, but it's like they're kind of funny for dealing with such a horrendous moment in history that we were all experiencing.
Yes, I always try to use humor and irony and all this reference to what was made before, like political cartoon and all this. Maybe less recognized objects that carry so much information about what was happening before. Because I think that history always repeats, and that's something that we need to take account of. How all this media.
Sandra, I don't want to hear that we're going to have to live through this again.
Yeah, me neither. But it will happen again. not with this man exactly, but with another. It's like always the history of humanity. And I am working now with the same idea, but making these that are like cell phones based on the Sumerian tablets that were the first media that was used to transmit dialogue and information. The first disputations were made by the Sumerians in these kind of tablets, and I am making the parallel now between the Sumerian tablets and the iPhones. And it's an installation that I will make like a room, a store, iPhone store or telephone store, like cell phone store, and with all these tablets with the text. It's about polarization and how critical is what all this lack of civility that we have in media in this moment, in social media.
Where did the text come from?
The text come from internet. There are like kind of dialogue, polarized dialogues in internet and in Twitter, in Facebook. It's a collection of text, but it's a participative installation in which people also will engraving their own tablets on the room.
Wow, really? Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I saw them. What is the material that you're using? Is that cement?
No, it's clay.
Oh, it's clay.
Yeah. Oh. Mm-hmm.
I also saw some pupitres, school desks.
Yeah, that's another installation I was working that I will be showing year in Art Yard in New Year's. It's a big video installation in relation to education and history and pedagogical, and also mainly how local communities need to know about their own history. That's the point of this.
Wow. So how is it going at the Art Institute?
Very well. I really enjoy it. I have such a good classmates and such a good professors. I enjoy so much the discussions in our class with you and also with Cristobal Martinez, Claire Daigle, who she's always keeping us so imposed about what is happening in the world in relation to theory about art, and really very informative and very fun classes. And also Maria Elena, we are reading about future of monumentality. It's such an interesting subject. And do we politics and art? It's amazing. I think it's so rich the learning that we get doing this graduated student.
That's wonderful. Really, really great. To keep it, brief and all of that for the sake of that. But is there anything that you would like to add about anything that is going on in your life, in your work, in Cuba, anything like that?
Well, I think also I am very connected with what is happening in Cuba, and now is a very difficult time for Cuban artists and for Cuban population. There's a lot of censorship and a lot of political problems. There is artists are having a very important role in this fighting against injustice. There is this group of San Isidro movement that have been so important recently, and also Tania Bruguera with Instar. I think it's a very, very important and difficult for Cuban population now because of the crisis, economic crisis and political crisis and the COVID altogether. And I have been able to go to Cuba since a year. I really want to be there and connected with the artists and see my family that is there still.
Because you still have family there, right? Of course.
Yeah. My parents and my sister, my brother,
Wow.
and my niece, my nephew. Yeah, my family is there. Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow. Well, Sandra, this has been such a pleasure. I want to thank you, and
Thank you.
I will see you around, and maybe someday in the future, maybe you can physically go to the San Francisco Art Institute, and
I love it. I would love that.
you know,
And I really appreciate this opportunity. I love to be part of this also hard time for the San Francisco Art Institute, and I think it's a great school. It's a school that have a history, a tradition that is so important to preserve, and it's an incredible place for develop creativity and contemporary art. And so I
well,
hope much more years for the institute.
when I realized and you told me that about your plans to apply, I was really thrilled because you have so much to contribute and so much to bring to the table, and now you're part of the extended family that is the San Francisco Art Institute, and you will be an alumni like me. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So I really
Yeah.
love having you part of
Yeah.
our community. Thank you so much, Sandra.
I'm very happy and proud to be part of this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
I'll see you
Tony.
soon.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank
see you
you.
soon, and I'm glad that you got your air condition fixed. Ciao.
Yes, thank you. Bye. See you around. Bye.